Hello, everyone, and welcome to another weekly work session here. Coach Ashley was not able to join us today, so we've got another crew here. We've got our usual, and I'm Greg, I guess, if you don't know who I am, but we've got Julie and Colin here from our very amazing support team, and we have a special guest today, Tiffany Armstrong, who's going to be talking about the psychology of your niche and how to apply it to copywriting. But as you're coming in today, feel free to just leave a message in the chat from where you're at. And yeah, so we're kind of all over the place. I'm in Fargo, North Dakota. We've got, Julie and, or we've got several places here. We've got like Florida and Canada and I believe Arizona. So yeah, we're kind of all over. We'd love to hear where you're from too. So very excited about today's training. So, and as usual, like if you have any questions, certainly put them in the Q&A button. The chat can get a little busy from time to time. So we don't always catch everything that's in the chat, and it's hard to get back to people because it like scrolls away. So drop it in Q&A, that stays there for us. If you do have any questions along the way, I believe we left some time at the end of the training here. If you have any questions for Tip, or if you have any questions, about system stuff in general, certainly just pop it in the Q&A. We'll do our best to answer it and get back to you. If we can't, we'll follow up by email after the call. Cool. So yeah, we've got Arizona, New Jersey, Canada, Wyoming, another Arizona, Northern Ontario, South Dakota, another Arizona. It's a Arizona kind of day here. So, that's awesome. All right. Well, I guess without further ado, Tiff, I'll turn it over to you. I probably actually need to, if you've got slides, I'm going to make you co-host here so you can share your screen. And then, yeah, I'll turn it over to you here to talk more about all your awesome goodness. So thanks everyone for coming. Tiff, you've got the floor.
Perfect. I will definitely be sharing my screen. So let me just get that up here for everybody. Here we go. So one of my favorite topics is psychology, because I find the human brain and our behaviors just so stinking fascinating. And so there's a psychology to dialing in your niche. And then there's a psychology to, or an art to taking that psychology of what drives your niche to action. And then you write based on that. And so I'm going to teach you some very simple formulas for copywriting today, because not everybody's a natural writer. Not everybody's a copywriter. I'm going to teach you the difference between creative writing and copywriting and how that affects your business. But a couple little things here. Just let me introduce myself real quickly. I am an international business strategist, and I own 3 businesses myself. And I have I've moved all of my businesses over to the GetOiling / Attractwell platform because it's my favorite by far. And so I'm going to show you examples within my business, but some other clients that we've worked with to show you the art of how you apply copywriting and how you can see a landing page would actually convert. There's a lot of times we are building landing pages within GetOiling and building lead magnets and things like that. And it's just nobody's actually moving to action on the page. And there's a reason for that. And a lot of times lead magnets, and especially websites and landing pages, a lot of times those are just what people tend to do is do information dumps. It's just like this digital brochure, but there's no psychology to the page. And so it's like, here's everything I do, and I hope somebody likes enough and reads these big, huge, long paragraphs, and they will not do that. So I'm going to show you just how to create simple copywriting on your landing page that will actually get people to either book the call with you or go over to your Young Living bundles and things like that and actually order from you. That's where the money, the magic happens, right? And the money. So let's dive into the niche blueprint just to start. So I was just mentioning about what's very common is just we speak from, I'm going to show you 4 levels of a little formula here. And most entrepreneurs speak from level 1 or 2 on their lead magnets, their social media posts, and their websites. And it is just the what you do. There's not a lot of emotion to it. There's not, and I'm not talking about we need to be all fear-mongering or anything on our websites to go emotional, but it's about understanding the deep emotional needs of your niche in the first place. And so a lot of times lead magnets, social media, and websites aren't getting the engagement or the movement that you want. And it's simply because you're speaking from level 1 or 2, what I'm about to share with you. Okay. So this is the exercise. And this is a powerful exercise. If I have you walk away with one thing today that can absolutely shift your business, and this will apply to your lead magnets, all the things that we just talked about, but also how you speak to people when you're having these conversations, it is this lesson. So if you really pay attention to this and do this within your own niche, you will completely feel a shift in your business. I promise you. So here it is. I'm going to give you the example. One of my businesses is self-defense. So it's just a very straightforward approach here. So what most entrepreneurs write from is level 1 or 2, but they're not really getting down to the crux of what really drives people to action. We buy based on emotion, and then we validate it with logic later. We don't like to think that. We're like, no, I made a logical decision, but there is some deep need when we hit the purchase button, when we pull our credit cards out, when we engage on social media, there is some deep need it's meeting for us. And that's where level 3 and 4 come in. So if you can understand your niche and what their level 3 and 4 are, like what actually drives them on a deeper level, it will change the game for you, because they will feel like, wow, he or she really understands me. They're speaking straight to me. This is for me. I know I need this. Credit card out and buy, right? So here's just a simple example. So what you are selling, okay? Let me go into presentation mode so you can see it a little bigger. So let's say I'm talking about my self-defense business. One of the simple things I could do on a social media post or on a landing page or lead magnet is, hey, I could teach you to learn to defend yourself. Okay. Does that have a huge emotional pull for you? Like, is there like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. I need this so badly. There's no emotional pull there, right? Level 1 is just basic what you do, right? I sell Young Living oils and products, right? That could be a simple what you do. I have the best oils, you know, that kind of thing. That's kind of where we can tend to go to. What we need to do is go down the list of the benefits of the previous level. So I'm going to just walk you through this. So my level 1, I can teach you self-defense. No emotional pull whatsoever. Okay. Number 2 is, what is the benefit of me teaching someone to learn self-defense? And so we bring a little bit more emotion, and the benefit of it is, so hey, if you were ever in a dangerous situation, you would know what to do about it. You'd be able to get out of it. There's a little bit more emotion there, right? But not much, not enough to have people purchase one of my online courses, for example, or purchase oils from you. And so what is the benefit of number 2, right? So we're moving down to level 3. What's the benefit of that benefit? What is the benefit of me teaching somebody self-defense so they can get out of a dangerous situation? Well, the benefit is so you make it home to your family every single day, because your children need you. They can't be without a mom or a dad, right? Their life would change forever. That is definitely digging in a little bit deeper, right? And now it's like, oh gosh, now I'm starting to bring my family into it, whatever else it is, right? Then level 4, if I really, and I don't lead with fear mongering, and I don't lead with all this. I'm just giving this as an example, just so you can understand the emotional pull. But what is the benefit of them making it home every day to their family and showing this to their kids? One of the things I could say in a social media post, for example, is your kids are always watching. Your kids are always watching mom and dad, and they do what mom and dad does. Whatever mom and dad prioritize, your kids will prioritize. So if mom, for example, is prioritizing her personal safety, your children are going to prioritize their personal safety so that you're going to see this little so that down here, so that you never get that phone call that your child was in a dangerous situation and didn't know what to do about it. You see, that's a whole different ballgame. And so if I'm writing a social media post or on a landing page, for example, or a website, and I just say, hey, I can teach you to learn self-defense so you can get out of a dangerous situation, nobody's going to buy anything from me. Nobody's going to want to hire me as a speaker for this. Nobody's going to want to buy the courses. It is just going to be a flat affect. And plus, in my social media, nobody's going to like and heart and do all this kind of stuff, right? They're not going to engage and comment on your posts. I used to have 1 or 2, maybe 12 likes on some of my posts, and now some of my videos and things have gone viral and 3 million people, and it's because of this formula right here, okay? So if you can, and feel free to take a screenshot, whatever you need to do with this, because it is so important. So what I want you to do in your own business is think about your niche, and we're going to get a little deeper into the niche here, but what do they want, right? What are you selling? So let's just say we're talking about Young Living, right? And we're talking about, you sell Ninja Red, and you sell these oils, and you sell all these different products, right? What is the benefit of them? Hey, I could help you be healthier and toxin free. We can detoxify your whole home. right? And that's where most of our things are. We need to get the toxins out of our house and put these amazing young living oils in your hands and products thieves and all this stuff in your hands, right? Well, what's the benefit of that? It's so they're getting sick less often. It's so cancers are not on their, obviously, I know you have to limit yourself with medical talk, but you want to get down to the deeper feeling of what these moms are wanting and what these parents are wanting, right? So what's the benefit of the benefit of the benefit? So I can't implore you enough to just really spend some time with this exercise, maybe spend 30 whole minutes just thinking about this, okay? And go through that process. And you'll come up with several of them. And then you'll write your social media posts from it. You'll write your lead magnets and you'll write your landing page copywriting, okay? So speaking of niche, what do they actually want? That's the deeper levels. It's like what's way below, what's on level 3 and 4. It's so important to get to, because otherwise you're going to completely miss the boat and your business will stay stagnant. This is one of the biggest things you can learn. So another thing is trying to speak to everyone. So let me just show you, I'm just going to give you examples. All of my websites that I'm going to show you are right within the GetOiling Attractable system. So for example, I have a very feminine twist on self-defense. That's literally what I say right there, right? It's very interesting because I did this whole process of, okay, what do these women, I want to meet the woman who is like my niche is the woman who will not go into a martial arts facility. She just won't, because it's not her thing, right? Or people in different countries who don't have access to self-defense, and the crime rate on women are so high. So when I'm thinking about my niche here, I wanted to figure out, what do they want to see me in? What do they, and like, did they want to see me in my traditional martial arts gi with my black belt around rolling on the mat? Or did they want to see me kind of being the everyday girl next door? I wear high heels when I teach self-defense sometimes, because when I was attacked, you know, I was wearing heels. So I want to teach people like, hey, we don't always walk around in yoga pants and are ready for an attack, right? And so if I were talking to men and women on this website, would that make sense, right? Even if I'm really understanding my niche, and it's kind of the everyday mom, entrepreneur, all the people who want to understand self-defense but won't go into a dojo, I'm going to speak to the feminine woman very, very differently than I would speak to a woman who's into CrossFit, right? Because the CrossFit woman's like, yeah, I'm willing to roll around on the mat with the men, right? And then I would speak very differently with my niche than a man, right? So if I'm sitting here talking to men, I've had some men say, you know, this is, you're going to miss all the men in your niche. And I said, exactly. I've taught men for 23 years, but I'm not afraid to polarize my brand in order to reach the right people, because the copywriting is going to be completely different. I'm not going to be talking about, hey, for the woman and mom and entrepreneur who won't go into a dojo, right? So your copywriting is totally based around your niche. And that is the biggest mistake people make, is they do try to speak to everyone, right? So within Young Living, who is that niche for you? You want to just talk to moms? Do you want to talk to moms of children with ADHD? You know, that kind of stuff. Like, is there something that, because you can use those focus blends. Who is your niche? And it doesn't, and we don't want to narrow it so much that you're just talking to 12 people, right? But it's really fascinating when you really understand who you want to focus on. Your entire message is focused on that person, and it is okay. Like, for example, with my consulting business, if I'm talking to everyone, it doesn't make sense for me. So I actually really narrow my focus a bit, right? But then I still take on clients that aren't in my niche because they're liking what I'm doing, kind of thing. So just because you narrow your niche doesn't mean other people aren't going to come your way. It is just a matter of the majority of your Instagram, Facebook posts, all the copywriting around it is really geared towards who you want to be speaking to. So let's just talk a little bit more about that. On to the next slide. So what are their pain points? What are their actual pain points, right? Is it some mom whose their kids are getting sick constantly? Are their kids struggling with sleep? Are they struggling with sleep? And then here's, if we go the deeper levels, right? Let's just say the pain point is that the mom is struggling with sleep. Okay, let's just say that's a topic you want to bring up. It's one of her pain points, whoever your niche is, right? So let's say she's struggling with sleep. That's a level 1 thing. That is one of those common things that we will say, hey, I can help you learn to sleep better. Like, I can set you up in a very nice, I have a strategy for you, and that includes these oils, right? If we just say, hey, I could help you sleep, that's not enough for somebody to take action. So now we need to go down to those deeper levels. Like, if I could be so frank, if a woman is not sleeping well, is she going to want to have intimacy with her husband? No, her marriage is going to be affected. Is she going to suddenly be snapping at her children and feel like not mom of the year? Yes. And so those are those level 3 and 4 things. It's like, what is this lack of sleep causing in her life, right? Also, keep in mind, if we're talking about the benefits down here, you could also put this as the pain points. Okay, what pain point are you solving? Okay, what is the benefit of solving that pain point? What's under that pain point? What's under that pain point? Okay, so it's either benefit or pain point. You could kind of do that interchangeably. So what are their actual deep pain points? I'm not talking about the superficial level 1 and 2 pain points, okay? Do they even know they have a problem in the first place? There's a lot of times we have to actually do some groundwork and educate people that, hey, there is a problem and here's a solution to it. How do they speak and like to be spoken to, right? That's where we talk about your brand voice. I'll mention this in a minute, but your brand voice, some of us are like, hey girl, blah, 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 blah. That's not my thing, but you know what I'm saying? So some of us will do these different tonalities, and some will come across as legal and professional. Some will come across as sarcastic, witty, and funny, and just super, super authentic in the sense of like, my kids are driving me nuts, my hair is being pulled out, I don't even know what to do here, but I have this is what keeps me sane, kind of thing. So how do they like to be spoken to? What can you create that solves their problem? That's where we start talking about lead magnets. A lot of times, like if you do vendor events, for example, and people walk up and the whole goal is to sell your products, right? Sell Young Living products right into their hands or others. And so if you're sitting here at vendor booths, can you imagine, obviously there's just a sales exchange, but if you have a lead magnet that's like, hey, the top 10 ways to, and I'm going to talk about some lead magnet copywriting in a minute, but top 10 ways to support your children with ADHD. Let's just say it's a mental health conference kind of thing. Then you're leading with value. And I can show you all the technical stuff. Colin and Julie are actually my tech geniuses over here. I call on all the time, but I can show you exactly when you go to events, you have a QR code, they scan it, it opens up your value-based, your value-forward offer, something that's helpful to them, right? It's a guide, and then now they're in your system and you get to market to them, right? So we don't always have to lead with the sale first, we lead with value first, and then all of a sudden your niche just loves you because you're so helpful to them, right? And then what have they tried before that didn't work? Like, are they sitting there just loading themselves up with pharmaceuticals and chasing symptoms with another pill and another pill, right? What have they tried that didn't work? So you can speak to that and understand what drives them and where their frustrations lie. And then what makes you different, right? What makes you different? Like in my self-defense world, I've been attacked and I survived my attack and went to prison with a broken nose. So, but I didn't know self-defense at the time. And so now that's what got me into it. But what makes me different is I have real life experience with it, right? So same thing with you. You just have to understand what makes you different. What have you experienced in life? What have you gone through? What have you experienced in life where you can truly understand the level 3s and 4s of your ideal niche? Does that make sense? So, and let me know if there's any questions as we go, okay? Also, who has the money to invest? This is one of the things I talk about all the time is power relationships. So if you're in a direct sales company, right, and we're selling to all these individuals, but is there 1 or 2 people who you can connect with and they have your entire niche, a full audience of your entire niche already built out? And so you start collaborating with, you make a win-win situation with that other person, and all of a sudden you get to come in and speak or maybe do different events with an already made niche from somebody else's work, right? So they did the work to build this niche. You get to build a relationship with that one power relationship and figure out how you can make a win-win for both of you, okay? It's not you just being like, well, I'm going to build this relationship with this person so I can get in and get into her niche. No, that's not what we want to do, right? We want to build authentic, true, lead with your heart type of relationships there, okay? So who has the money to invest? Whom do you love working with? Who can you get true results for? Like, who do you feel really confident in supporting? And then where do they hang out? And that's the whole thing. When I used to run my family's locksmith and security company. So I'd go all these networking events, and it was me as the locksmith security person teaching about safety and locking and all the stuff. And then all these other people had their own businesses, right? That's not my niche. That was kind of the individual, right? What made more sense was for me to go join and sponsor a networking group of all property managers. That was my niche, because one property manager manages a whole bunch of properties and once I build that relationship, they would have us come out for everything. And now it's a whole niche of property managers, right? So where does your niche hang out, and where do they hang out in bulk? And I'm talking digitally speaking, and I'm talking in person as well. Okay. So just really think through that. And then why you, what is it like? How do you want to approach? How do you want to show up? How do you need to, I talk a lot about branding, and you are your brand. There's a lot of people, right? Young Living is a big company, and different direct sales companies, they're big. And so there's a lot of you out there. And so what makes you different? And again, that is understanding your niche, understanding their 3 or 4 level pain points or what drives them to action, and then figuring out how you can relate from your life's experience to them. What makes you different? Okay. So it's very important to have all that dialed in. So in a nutshell, don't speak to everybody. Do your market research on your niche, right? Understand their deep levels 3 and 4, pain points or benefit of the benefit kind of thing of what you offer. And then what makes you different? How do they want to be spoken to, and where do they hang out? Okay. So we're going to apply these concepts now. Think about those benefit of the benefit kind of concepts, and we're going to apply that to the art of copywriting. And I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to show you several sites that we built in GetOiling and the Attractable systems. So you can just see the psychology of how it moves through. One of the things I see on landing pages all the time is your huge logo up top, and there's no writing. And so they have to actually scroll to even start reading anything. And that is one of the biggest things shooting yourself in the foot, because when somebody lands on your social media, lands on your lead magnet opt-in pages, or lands on your website, before they ever scroll, you have 3 seconds to capture their attention. This is why we need a hook at the top of every single thing we do, right? Every single thing we ever write, it's got to be something that is like, here's a very intriguing way to say something. And so when I land on a landing page, I know, wow, I know exactly what this is about. I know it's for me, and I kind of get the gist of like how it can support me in some way, right? That is what sells me to then scroll to the next section. So we actually have to sell people with our words or our pictures to be able to move people through. And sometimes that's humor, sometimes it's playful, sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's shocking. We can do anything with it, okay? So quick note, I always say this just because I get asked this all the time, but copyright and copyright, very different things. Copyright with the W, it's right. The word right is in there, right? Copyright with the R only that's when you're getting things legally protected, okay? So just pointing that out. And then one more other thing is creative writing versus copywriting. Creative writing, some of us are great writers. I got really good grades on my English papers because I was a great storyteller and all those kind of things. But creative writing, the main gist of it in a nutshell, you don't have to read this whole slide, but the main gist is somebody who is, it's more entertainment. It's more like, oh, that was a good story kind of thing, but it's not done in a way to move somebody to an action, to draw people to your call to action and have them say yes. Okay. So copywriting, that is the art of persuasive writing to get somebody to do something. Okay. That's it in a nutshell. You want them to be able to take an action. Okay. So let's talk about the psychology of copywriting then. So first of all, we talk about brand voice. I'm just going to go through this real quickly because I already mentioned it, but if you, with your brand voice, are you going to be sarcastic and witty and inspirational and motivational? Are you going to educate and be funny? Are you going to be more serious and because you have a serious topic? And keep in mind, very serious topics, they can be light and airy. Like, let me just give you a simple example. I started off with a really serious tone in my self-defense business. I started off with a really serious tone, and it brought in really intense people and a lot of victim mentality. And that wasn't my niche, okay? And just full transparency, I did not want to open up my Facebook group and see somebody who was just word vomiting their whole history of trauma. And I am 100% supportive of that. I've been through a lot of trauma myself, but that wasn't the business I wanted to run. I wanted to attract those people, but in an empowering way, not a bring them in and I attract those same exact people now, but it actually moves them to empowerment versus, oh, this is a place for me to just voice all my trauma over and over again. Okay. So for example, one of the things I changed is, here's the deal. Some people suck and they're going to continue to be horrible people in the world. So it's up to us to learn how to protect ourselves. This draws in a very specific type of person. They're like, man, that's real. Yep, I got it. And it's just kind of this real authentic person that's like, yeah, I probably should learn to defend myself so I can protect my kiddos, right? So this is not, I had to really battle with myself about, should I write like that? Because self-defense is a very serious topic. But what I found was people felt overwhelmed if I was like, oh my gosh, here's the statistics, and like shoving all this stuff down their throats. It was not moving people to action because I was actually raising their fear. And I'm like, no, we can take a nonchalant approach, and let me just show you how to, throat strike somebody or strike somebody in the nose. That's how I got away from my attacker, and all that. So just thinking about your words matter, and it is very important to understand your brand voice, okay? And then you always write everything from that. And it could be a multiple thing. Like some people are educational, inspirational, and hilariously sarcastic, right? Sarcasm is one of my favorite languages. I was talking to Colin the other day about how he and I are both fluent in sarcasm. It's a third language for us. So we want to be able to do that. Okay. So if a prospect was sitting right in front of you, how would you speak to them? And here's the interesting thing. So when we're face to face with somebody, okay, we talk in a certain way. This is me having a nonchalant talk with all of you, right? So this is me. I'm not like in presenter mode, like, let me teach you about copywriting. Today we are going to talk about, like, I don't go into presentation mode. This is just me. This is how I talk all the time, right? Same thing with how you write. A lot of times we talk in a certain way, we interact in a certain way, and then when we go to write something, it's like, okay, this is a serious time, it's business. And then we get this weird tonality when we write. Write like you talk. And that's where people will be like, oh my gosh, you're so authentic, you're so real, I really relate to that, whatever else it is, okay? Even in the legal world, right? And so when you are writing, I want you to, after you write a social media post or write something, right? I want you to read it. I want you to read it to yourself, read it out loud. Actually, I'll show you that in a second. We always want to read it out loud, because if you're reading it out loud and you're stumbling, people's brains are going to read it and stumble and they won't like it and they'll move on, okay? So, but when you type or when you write up whatever your copywriting is, and then you read it, I want you to picture yourself sitting in front of somebody and say, would I actually speak like that? And then if not, make the little shifts in there to make it, like, add a little hilarious, funny thing, or do a little in parentheses. Because if you're talking to somebody and you said something and then you do an afterthought, like an under your breath kind of talk, like, yeah, we've all been there kind of thing, write that. Yeah, we've all been there kind of thing, wink, wink. And you could just do all this funny stuff, okay? Or afterthoughts. All right, so that is one thing. Also, perfect grammar. This was a hard one for me because I grew up with a grammar police in my house, and every single word I spoke had to be right on point with the grammar. So I was like, anything I said, I was corrected on. And so then I wrote like that. I'm very specific about grammar. However, in business, it's really fascinating that we do not need to have perfect grammar. One of the hardest things for me when I started really understanding this, and I took all of my training on copywriting, is at the very beginning, it is okay to start a sentence with and or but, if that makes sense to do, right? Instead of like having perfect grammar, because it's not relatable. People read, especially social media, people read it and they want to have it feel like how people talk. They don't want these perfect, sentences that are all grammar checked, okay? So feel free to say rollin' with an N and an apostrophe at the end versus rolling, right? We don't have to say you are, you can say your, like we can do those contractions. You can type girl, like GUUURL, like if you're doing something like that, girl, oh my goodness, it's been a day, that kind of stuff. So you can be really real, okay? So don't worry about perfect grammar. That was the hardest thing for me to break out of because I'm a grammar queen myself. Okay, and then here we go. We already talked about this, okay? Starting a sentence with it. So like I said, read it out loud, because every single time you type something, it's like, okay, this looks good. You read it, you read it, you read it. If you read it out loud, you will stumble at certain parts and it's like, ooh, I stumbled. What's a better way to say it? That is a very powerful, simple thing. And how many times do we like type a text to somebody and then we hit send and then we're like, I should proofread that after it's already gone. And you're like, oh, shoot. You know what I mean? And there's all these typos and all this stuff. So read it out loud and proofread yourself, okay? And then last one here is pain versus pleasure. Pain versus pleasure. It's very interesting how humans work. We all see those. We're scrolling on Facebook and you see a video that's a heartfelt one, and sometimes we want to watch those. And then we see some crazy Karen run around yelling at people, right? And if they're right next to each other, the majority of people will click on the crazy lady yelling. Okay, it just is what it is, because we are more drawn to the pain of life versus all the fluffy nice stuff. And so, although I cry a lot at all the sweet little videos I see on social media, because I do avoid the negative on purpose, but it's very intentional for my brain. So let's just think about this for a second. So if we were doing a lead magnet, for example, so this is a realtor, for example, two different headlines, same lead magnet, what one would we naturally be drawn to? Okay, what would be like, ooh, I should get this. 3 tips to having a smooth home buying process. Okay, that's the positive side of things. It's kind of bland and simple, right? There's not that level 3 and 4 on here. 3 mistakes most people make when buying their first home. Can you see that people would be more drawn to the 3 mistakes that most people make? Because we want to avoid pain versus move to pleasure. That's just human nature, okay? That's the majority of people anyway. Unless you've done a lot of personal development work, then you don't have that anymore. Another one, the guide to introducing your baby to new foods. Okay, that's good, right? Warning, do not introduce your baby to new foods until you've read this. Which one would we be more drawn to, right? It's these avoiding pain type of headlines, okay? So you can see the differences between these two. And it is just reality that you will get more conversions if you do the pain lead versus the pleasure lead, okay? Again, not a fear-mongering thing, but it is just, if you really think about it, the whole goal is for you to get these products into people's hands so their babies can be healthy, so their kids can be healthy, so their whole families can be healthy, right? And lead really good lives. I use, like, every single time before I do a talk, I put Valor on, right? It gets my mind right. And there's a lot of goodness. So you could tell me, hey, you need that oil. This Valor oil will help you be super clear-minded during your presentations. What is that going to do for me? It's going to get me hired as a speaker other places. It's going to have me feel really good as a speaker. It's going to take on clients. There's just by this oil, right? So if you look at me for the level 3 and 4, maybe one of the reasons I would use Young Living and other products like that, I need my brain on focus because I run 3 businesses and I want to show up professionally, right? And focus. This is how I get so much done in the day. So if you really think about all that kind of stuff. So for me, if you were saying, hey, I have an oil that will help you be a better speaker, you know, and stay focused during your speaking. That is a pleasure version of it versus here's the best way to avoid brain fog so you don't flub up as a speaker, you know, something like that, so you don't get lost and embarrass yourself in front of a whole group of people, right? That would be like, I need that. You know, what is this oil? So you see the difference, okay? So let's look at some examples of some things. So we're going to talk lead magnets, social media, and websites. I actually have a document that I'm going to share with you for the social media piece. And I broke some different social media types of posts out into formulas. So you start with a hook, then you do a story from pain to triumph, then you bring the audience in. So I have a beautiful little formula. So I will get that to you somehow. Greg, is that something we can just get to them after the fact? Can we do a big email, something along those lines? Okay, that's
or
perfect.
anything else in there we want.
That's perfect. Yeah. So I'll get this document in your hands just so you know. And then, okay, a couple things. Go into here. Like this is mine. I'm going to show you several different ones. But does working on your website make you cringe? That is, you have no idea how many people come to us with GetOiling and Attractwell and say, oh my gosh, working on my website makes me cringe. It's just what they've said over and over. And the reality is, do they want to be, where is your time best used, right? Is it spending a year on making your own website and having it still not be where it should be? Or is your time best spent focusing on income producing activities, right? That's where it is. So that's why a lot of people come to us to create theirs. But the reason we use this is because, yes, this is the words that our niche is using, right? This is what people say to us all the time, and it makes perfect sense. So when they land on this, they're like, oh my gosh, that's me, right? That's what we want at the top of pages. Another one is, this is another client of ours, Dr. Ryan Johnson. He's amazing. Go get his book, drryanjohnson.com. So uncovering the truth in an industry full of lies. Okay, finally a no-nonsense approach to fat loss you can trust. Okay, he's done years of research on this. This is uncovering the truth in an industry full of lies. What that does is when people land on the page, they understand, oh gosh, I have been lost in this industry, and I know that it's not always of all people in, Young Living and GetOiling, right? We know that pharmaceuticals and all this traditional medicine and ways to lose weight and all that kind of stuff is full of flub, right? So he leads with it. He's a very direct approach guy. His brand voice is direct, no nonsense. I'm going to cut through the crap. Okay. Finally, a no nonsense. And then if you've suspected that you're being duped, so he is actually going down the level. We got to level 3 and 4 on this page, right? And so this is where we go. So you start off with a hook at the top, right? Then we move down and understand, okay, where are their level 3 and 4 pain points and things like that? Let's speak to it. They're sick and freaking tired of being duped by this industry. They're so tired of yo-yo dieting all up and down and not feeling good when they actually finally do start to work out and all the things, right? So that's where he went. And then he offers the solution. So if you think about kind of the layout of a landing page that converts well is a hook at the top. And so, for example, before we even scroll, right, uncovering the truth of an industry of lies makes me think, what is this about? Like, that's very curiosity invoking, right? And then finally, a no nonsense approach to fat loss. So before I even scroll, I'm like, I have struggled with fat loss. Like I have yo-yoed all over the place. Like this is for you. And then all of a sudden you start speaking to their pain points. Like, yeah, I feel like I've been duped. I'm exhausted from digging through all the crap of all the different education out there that just leads me astray, kind of thing. So do you see how the benefit of the benefit of the benefit pulls you through? Okay. Another example is this one. Another health person, right? A diet culture. The diet culture is keeping you in a cycle of failure. People are like, oh my God, what they hear and see immediately is cycle of failure. And they relate to it. They're like, yep, I have been on and off and on and off, right? It's exhausting. So she's speaking to a level 3 and 4 pain here. It's exhausting following an unrealistic plan only to gain more weight, which has you isolating yourself from the outside world even further. This is the level 3 or 4 right there. Does that make sense? So that's where she understands her niche really well. And then she offers a really simple solution. It only takes 15 minutes a day, okay? So those are just some nice, simple examples of some that we've built in the system, right? And use those copywriting psychology, okay? Now we're gonna go, I'm just gonna show you a couple of lead magnets here. Here, I'll just go grab one of mine and then I'll show you another one. So, Adrian, I am highlighting you, Miss Adrian, and I think you said you're going to be on this call. So thank you. So let's talk about this. So she uses obviously Young Living oils to create a chemical-free yoga mat spray. Okay. When we first started talking, it was how to create your own yoga mat spray, right? And the chemical-free is the intriguing part of that. Like that's what guides or draws them into the picture, right? But then we talk about that deeper stuff over here. Okay. So yoga mats are a breeding ground for bacteria. That's giving a piece of information that people probably just haven't thought about. So when we were talking about your niche, do they know they have a problem, right? When I said, does your niche even know they have a problem? This is her educating them on the fact that, hey, have you ever thought about the fact that your yoga mat is a breeding ground for bacteria? And then what's the deep thing? Like what she could actually get into here is if you're sitting here, putting your hands on this bacteria and wiping your face, right? And you're going to get sick. And then if you get sick, you can't work out. And then all of a sudden you're trying to get back on the wagon and do your yoga and you're sitting here sabotaging yourself by accident because you're sitting here making yourself sick from your own yoga mat kind of thing. So do you see kind of how this can speak on a deeper level? This is not like what most entrepreneurs that I see do. This whole headline is get your free yoga mat spray. And that's all they say. And it's a 3 guide, And so get your free. So they're saying what it is. They're saying the level 1 on the benefit of the benefit thing. They're saying the level 1 here, but they're not speaking to them on a deeper level. And that's where we need to do that from. Okay. So that is that. Yeah, I feel like that is pretty good. And then the last thing, let me show you this, and this is the worksheet I'm going to get you. So copywriting blueprint for social media. Okay. So I'm going to kind of pick through this a little bit, but this is a whole guide. I mean, this is, I don't even know, 20 something pages, maybe 30. So when we think about just different types of social media posts that you can do, right? We can share our personal stories. We can share expert tips. We can show some behind the scenes stuff that's like, I've been working on this course, or, hey, this is, my daughter's putting on her Young Living oils and all that kind of stuff, right? We can share testimonials either from clients you have, or maybe just a story you've heard from another person that you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this kind of thing. So I'm going to show you a couple examples. I'm just thinking because I might want to pull up a different example that I just saw that was just brilliant. So anyways, and then I'll go grab that in a second. And then just the fun getting to know you post. So what I do is I wrote a blueprint for each of these types of posts. And so I'm just going to read you the first one that pops up. So the personal story formula, for example, you want to start with a hook, right? So start with that hook. So let me take one step back. When you're scrolling through social media, what is the first thing that stops you from scrolling on a post? The graphic, right? It's the image, the photo, the graphic. That has to be a thumb-stopping image. So we want to brighten those images. I do a whole thing on just images and how to make them thumb-stopping, okay? So it's very important that as they're scrolling, we catch their attention with the image. Then they look up at the very first sentence or 2 sentences of your post. That's the hook. That is what sells them then to read the rest. And that's where the magic happens, because if you can hook them in and then write in a way that just draws them in, and it feels like either storytelling, and not every post has to be really long by any means, but the hook sells them on reading. And then once they read your post, that is what actually draws them to, moves them to action, is by reading your words, right? We have to get them to read our words. So let me just say in a nutshell, a very big rule of thumb is I very rarely, as in Young Living or any other direct sales companies, I would very rarely put an image of my products on there, believe it or not. The only time I would put oils or sales, that kind of thing, is if you're actually speaking directly about that product or those products and you're saying, hey, I have a special deal right now, blah, blah. If it's an actual sales post, that's the only time. Otherwise, even if you're talking about your products, putting a really eye-catching image of you or a funny image. Like, for example, I was working with Damsel in Defense is a direct sales company. And so they sell self-defense tools. And so instead of showing the self-defense tool, right, what this woman does is she hangs her striking tool, her Kubotan, in her shower. And then we wrote a really funny post, like a really fun, catchy thing of, have you ever been in the shower and you hear that noise and then you look out and see what your dogs are doing? Are they worried? And then and then it went down this whole funny route, right? But the image she chose was her husband. She's like, hey, can you go in the shower and hold the dog? And he's like, sure. He didn't even ask questions. That says a lot about their funny relationship. But he went in the shower and he peeked the dog's head around. So the dog's looking around their shower curtain. And that was an eye-catching. And she got hundreds and hundreds of engagement on that because it was hilarious. It was eye-catching, but she didn't just do a picture of the Kubotan, right? That's where the difference is, right? So the image stopped her because it was hilarious, stopped people. Then the hook was, something hilarious and eye-catching. And then it got them to read their story. And she sold a lot of stuff from that, right? And so it's like, holy cow. And she didn't do this big, I sell these and come buy this from me. It was just a storytelling, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to teach you that. So we want to start with a hook. Then we always want to, if you're doing kind of storytelling posts, we want to start with the pain to the triumph. And we don't want to leave people in pain, right? This is not like, feel bad for me, victim mentality, look at how hard my life's been. This is like, hey, this part sucked. This was hard, whatever else it is. And then you go into the triumph, right? You go into the triumph of it. And then you want to always bring your audience in and apply it to them, because every single person who reads your post is wanting to either be entertained or know what's in it for them. Okay, they want to be entertained or know what's in it for them, and it has to speak to them. So if you're just sharing your story and not bringing in your audience, you're missing half the formula. Okay, and then you could do one of these 3 things to close. Okay, so the formula is only 4 steps actually. I don't know why I put more bullet points, but hook, share the story from pain to triumph, bring your audience in, and then you either want to close with an inspirational or power statement. I have brought in more clients on posts where I did not do a, hey, book a call with me, or hey, go check out my website, or hey, if you want to talk, I'll, DM me, that kind of stuff. I've taken on more clients without a call to action at the end because my story spoke for itself. Okay. Or another really beautiful way to do it is PS selling. So you do this amazing story, and then it's a real gentle PS, P.S. right? PS selling, where it's like, PS, One of the things I do is help families, equip themselves, or help families clear out the toxins in their house. I would love to have a strategy call with you, something like that. So you could just do something, or message me if you're curious about being guided through that kind of thing. And then sometimes we do a very direct call to action where it's just like, hey, private message me, or here's my calendar link, or go check this out. Maybe it's a link that takes them over to your GetOiling to buy something, right? So something like that, okay? So I'm just going to read a post. Okay, so this looks very long, and it is, okay? I don't always do long posts like this, but I'm telling you, interestingly enough, if you know how to story tell, they will read the entire thing. I got a lot of engagement in this post. And even though it's long, notice I don't write in paragraphs, right? I write, and then a lot of them are dot, dot, dot. That's called an ellipsis at the end, the 3 dots. So the little ellipsis when you're continuing your thought, and then a period when the thought is finished. But by the time you get through the whole thing, people don't even realize how much they just read. So this is a power thing. When people see paragraphs, and I'm talking on lead magnets, on landing pages and website pages, and then social media, people do not like paragraphs. Bullet points, or if you do little mini paragraphs, bold some words, because most people will scan websites. They will not take time to read full paragraphs unless they are really interested. And I'm going to say that's probably 1 to 5% of the people. So if you're writing big paragraphs on anything, you're going to have less conversions. Okay, so let me just read this to you. I just grabbed an image of me with some pink heels. Apparently I really like those. Okay, so you know what I hate, and I mean really hate, is witnessing the amazing people in my life who have so much to give to the world, so much impact to make, and so much money to be made for their family's future, but they're just spinning their wheels in the exact same place, sometimes for years. They read books, take courses, hire certain coaches, only to find out they haven't moved the needle one bit. They're missing clarity, they're missing structure, and they're busy, but they're busy with all the wrong things. So guess what happens? Distractions take over, money bleeds to no avail, stress ensues, and they give up on their dreams. This breaks my heart. Success doesn't need to be difficult. It doesn't need to take a lot of time. And then I put a little bit of smooth authority in here. You don't need to, but I just said my clients from all over the world, I named some places. They all say the same thing. Once they gained clarity, and the systems to back that clarity up, their impact skyrocketed, and so did their income. This is what I do, and in very short order. Bring my clients more money than they ever had, have had in a matter of weeks. They call me business coach, life coach. They call me systems and processes guru. I just call myself someone who guides them to reach the impact and finances they were intended to in the world with half the effort. Freedom comes from clarity and from automated systems to free up your time. I'd be so honored to chat. So this is my simple, light, gentle call to action. I'd be so honored to chat with you about how I could do that for you, or anyone you know who's busy, but busy with all the wrong things, or just plain stuck and not moving forward at all. Dreams are meant to be realized. So this is kind of my inspirational finish. Dreams are meant to be realized. Let me know how I can help, sweet friends. We can have a simple chat to figure out how to finally move that needle for you. So that was a direct call to action, but no, it didn't feel salesy at the end, right? I didn't do this amazing story and then be like, hey, you could book a call with me here. It just feels a little bit more, I kept it in the storytelling realm. But you can see how I hooked them. You know what I hate, and I mean really hate, that is a hook, because people are drawn to that pain side of things, right? And then I started telling a story that there's a story, and it doesn't have to be your own story. This is a story about a lot of people I see that go from pain to triumph. And then I bring the audience in and say, I'd be honored to support you with this, right? So that is the simplicity. I will get this to you, but just so you know, I have these different formulas for each of these on this document, okay? And I have lots of different examples from different clients and some of my stuff mixed throughout, okay? And then also, I just want to point out, you can use these same type of scripts for video. And so video formulas. So if you're kind of, in a sense, copywriting what you're going to say on video, whether it's pre-recorded where you're recording it and then posting it later, or if you are showing up on live, we want to start with a hook. Always, even on lives, and please, 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 please hear this, is don't start your lives by saying, hey, who do we have on the call? Okay, yeah, hey, I'm just going to wait for a few more people to hop on, because you have 3 seconds to capture their attention. When I used to start my videos with who I was, people did not care who I was, and I'm not offended by that. But I would say, hey, I'm Tiffany Armstrong. I have 2 different second-degree black belts, been teaching for 23 years around the world. And then I would go into the tip. What I would do is I would have an amazing image. And they would be like, oh, and then they would read it, and then they would want to click on the video. So I got clicks on the video. I got hundreds of thousands of clicks, but then within 3 seconds, they were dropping off because I was not starting with a hook. I was starting with introducing myself. And so people don't care who they want what's in it for them. They don't need to know who I am. My authority is going to come through in the video by me giving the tip itself. So I encourage you very much when you're doing videos, start with a hook and then get right into what you're going to be covering that video. And then, so it would be the hook. And then if you can sneak in smooth authority. So a simple way to do that, for example, is I start with a hook. I would say something like, instead of me saying, hey, I'm about to share a self-defense tip with you, I would say, hey, have you ever been walking down the street and some dude starts walking up a little too close to you and you're like, do I look? Do I not look? Do I look? Do I not look? Like that is just interesting. Leaning in, talking quiet. That's part of what intrigues people to click on your video. So you start with that. And then I would say in the 250,000 people I've supported around the world with self-defense, one of the most common things I hear is that's a smooth way to sneak in some authority, right? You can do that or don't, if that makes sense for you. And then I get right into the tip, the 1 or 3 tips, whatever you're going to share, but you keep it going. Even if you're live, you don't sit there and stop constantly and be like, hey, Joanne, and you can definitely do that a little bit. Be like, hey, Joanne, I'd love to see you. So, and then get right back into it. Don't spend a lot of time interacting overly, right? So, and then you do a nice smooth transition sentence. The hardest part for people to do is from their content, and then they are going to have this little sales piece down here, right? At the very end, they're going to have some call to action. So when they're delivering the tips, everybody delivers those wonderfully because it's what you know, it's a tip, you're giving value, it feels good. Then all of a sudden you're going to transition into money talk or an offer, and that's where people get weird. And so it is, I watch people on video, and I used to do this myself. I'm very guilty of this in my past. I'd be like, oh, here's your 3 self-defense tips. And then, so I have an online course, and I would get really weird when it would come to talking about money. So the smooth way to do that is to create one transition sentence that you have pre-planned in your head. So I would maybe give my tips, and then maybe I'd give a really quick statistic and be like, this has to change because 1 in 3 women are being attacked in their lifetime. This is my transition sentence. This is exactly why I do what I do and why I wanted to make this available to women who won't go into a martial arts facility. It's exactly why I created my online courses. And then you just transition into your offer. So it's the hook for videos, it's your content, it's a transition sentence, and then it's the close. Okay, so that is the perfect formula, and I will tell you a lot of stuff will happen from that. So with that, I will get you this worksheet, okay? And just to recap in a nutshell, we need to really understand the benefit of the benefit, the level 3 and 4 for your niche, and then really spend some time going through what are their pain points? How can I support them? What makes me different, right? And then we want to, and decide your brand voice. And then as far as your lead magnets, your website pages and your social media, always start with that hook up top, always, always, always. And then start to speak to their pain points, if that makes sense. But you have to understand that level 3 and 4 pain point, okay? Your social media and everything else will shift if you really understand these concepts. So that is it in a nutshell. I'm definitely open for questions. Greg, if you want to support me in that, I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like there are a lot of people who are enjoying this information, thought it was quite useful, which is awesome. Evangeline has a question up here in chat. She says, question on the voice used for prospecting versus ongoing communication with the existing team, which is very diverse and not all in your niche. Feeling the voice she is feeling the voice needs a bit of adjusting for those already on her team. She's been building a team for 16 years and no specific niche, 16,000 people. Not sure we want to niche down on team communications. What do you think is the question?
So yeah, so Evangeline, I would not shift anything specific at all, because if you're building a team of 16,000, that has to do with most likely your organization skills potentially, but also your communication skills. And I have to think and believe that you're coming across as extremely authentic and just you. Would you agree with that? And so I actually would not go and shift your niche at all. I would actually just keep it wide open for what you've been doing. There's got to be some sort of niche in there in general of people who are interested in toxin-free living or something like that. So I'm sure part of it is actually already a niche. But if you have people coming from all over the place, just what I say is, instead of thinking about how your niche likes to be spoken to, I would just say continue being your authentic self, because it's working. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Does that make sense? And let me know if you have any more questions about that, Evangeline. Beautiful, beautiful question. Great job. 16,000 in your team. We're giving you a standing ovation for that. Good. Awesome. Yep, you're very welcome. Okay, and then Carolyn, Tiffany, are you going to review my Facebook site and comment as planned? Created for you. I think I have some nice guys as well as yes, Carolyn, we can definitely review your Facebook site as anything you need. We'll give you a little bit of a we actually is that something that we're going to do? I just am a little confused. I'm so sorry.
View for today's slot.
Oh, perfect.
So
sorry about that.
Ashley normally does, but yeah, I forgot to check the calendar today to let you know about that. But
yes, okay.
We have a minute or two here.
Yeah, is this? I'm so sorry about that. Pardon my confusion. So is it created for you.ca? Is that what it is? This is wonderful. I love doing things. Oh, here we go. Look at this. Beautiful hook. Make the second half of your life the best half of your life. Ooh, this is perfect. So first of all, this is perfect because it is very clear who you're speaking to. It is clearly somebody that is on the second half of their life, right? And then you're wanting to help guide them in what I'm getting is you're wanting to guide them in some way to just thrive, right, in that version. Because the first half of our life, we experience things so differently versus the second half. So I just love that. And then you know how most women look in the mirror as they age and wonder who is that looking back at me? Good. Well, I'm a radiance coach supporting. Good. So I'm going to give you a couple little mini things. There's just a couple extra spaces in here. And then I would probably keep this, if I could just do this in general, I would probably keep this to 2 fonts instead. Because when we start to have too many different font types, this is a beautiful headline one. I think that's Playfair Display, and I don't know what that one is, maybe Montserrat. But so I would use maybe 2 fonts because when people start to see lots of fonts in one section, it actually hurts their brain a little bit. And so we want to just be able to support them in that. And then while I'm a radiance coach, supporting you to discover that true beauty comes from the inside out, helping you to rediscover your unique. Perfect. Health, energy, radiance, feel secure in who God created you to be. We can meet in person, online, or I love that. Okay, so one of the things I would do here is turn these into, so I'd say this. I would say, well, I'm a radiance coach supporting you too, and then I would do these as checkpoints underneath it. Because again, even though this is a small paragraph, people will read this and then typically maybe this to understand a little bit more, and then they're going to start scrolling through. Okay. So I would make these little checkpoints right underneath it. So discovering you too, or supporting you too. That's perfect. And then, yeah, we could do ready to feel your best. So live your best, live your best. I think that's good. I love this little butterfly, by the way. Let me just take a glance at the rest of your page real quick. I see you. I love the things like I see you comments because that's what, especially if your niche is women, all we want to do is feel seen and heard as women. It's like we want to feel understood, seen, and heard. So when you use this, it's like, oh, okay, this woman gets me. Lovely middle-aged woman. Let me just take a glance. You're absolutely stunning, Carolyn, by the way. I help women to realize their unique gifts and meanings. Okay, so I like this because I'm actually curious how you do that. So Carolyn, I would be curious to have you actually, so this is kind of the what you do, right? And what you're doing really well on this page is you're reaching that level 3 and 4 copywriting style. I think I'm almost a little curious about like what this looks like. Like, do you do sessions with people? And then what do those sessions look like? So something along the lines of, do you help them with their nutrition? Do you help them with their mindset? Like just a little bit of like, let me just give you an example here. Let me just give you an example of a section here. This is actually somebody within Young Living as well. So this, Amanda will help you go through this in 3 phases. So this is kind of the what she does. This is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So I'm actually curious just to give people a little bit more context as to what it looks like to work with you. And I would put that a little higher on the page. And then let's see, I would actually take a little bit of the space out of this. Let's see. Okay, perfect. Have you help them with diet, exercise, and oils? Yeah, that's perfect. So maybe you can just spell that out. You know, I guide you with a unique, a unique spin on approaching your diet and exercise, and then supporting you to have full energy with oils. It may be something like that you could say, but I can always work with you on that exact copywriting. But this parallax background, I absolutely love it. I would just take some of the space out and make it a little bit more narrow, just so as you're scrolling, they can actually see there's a next section coming up, because it almost, some people might confuse this for the bottom of your website. And then let's see what woman, yes, I was there too. I love it that you're connecting with them here. Then I found my glow and healthy meaning. I would add one more dot here on behind meaning. And then you can too, there's good news. Yeah. So I think I would just give them a little context here with the diet, exercise, and oils. And then just introducing you. I love this section. I love the way it looks. Let me read it real quickly. It's time to be healthy and happy, enjoying your children, grandchildren. So here's what you're a master of, Carolyn, is reaching the 3 and 4 levels. So I think the one thing that's missing then, if I just gave you a big overarching thing, is actually the level 1 and 2 levels, which is pretty much opposite of most people in the world, because usually we have to dig deeper. You already went straight to their souls on this, which I love. It's such a beautiful art to have. So I would give them a little bit more of the context, like, for example, this is super simple, but like on my homepage here, this is a little logistics, like, hey, I help people with their business structure, financial process, style in their niche, offer, all this kind of stuff. And then down here, it says, how does Tiffany work with you? And it's like, hey, private consulting sessions, support between sessions, that kind of stuff. So I might just add a little bit of that deep context. Yep. That's good. Okay, perfect. Is that helpful, Carolyn? Do you have any other questions about it? I love that you have a guide here.
We can actually bring her out to talk too if you wanted to chat briefly. If not,
yes,
that's totally
I would
fine
love
too,
that.
so.
That would be
Okay.
so helpful. Beautiful job with the testimonials.
Sure. Let me see here, Carolyn, if I can find you here. Okay, there you go. Your talking is permitted now, Carolyn. So you should be able to speak if you'd like.
Thank you so much, Greg and Tiffany. I really, really appreciate you taking a look at it.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, I think you're right on, because a friend of mine who reviewed it said, I love your website, but I don't exactly know what you do. And I didn't really get that you can help me with the oils. So that's really, I need to go back to the 1 and 2.
Yeah, it really is. And it truly is very rare that I say that to somebody. So I'm giving you a big standing ovation about that, because that is it's a skill that's taught and has to be learned with that deeper level copywriting. So you already have that very naturally within you. So that's a beautiful thing. Well, I love it. Yeah. That's good.
It was the DDA and GetOiling that helped me with that. So it's really kudos to them.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
But now I just need a little support to get back into it, so I have confidence changing and bringing it up to speed and really, because I need to draw the people into my site, right? I've got a great site, but I need to draw them in.
Yes. So that is where, yes, that's exactly right. So that's where your lead magnet really being dialed in is a powerful thing. And then your social media, use this copywriting blueprints that you'll get. Use those on your social media to draw people in. It's really an amazing thing, because this is a beautifully done website. And I love the ooh, I want this, by the way. I just think that's so cute with the ooh ahead of time. That's you being really playful in your brand voice, which I love. Beautiful job. I would not change much about this. I would just organize it a little tiny bit differently with the fonts, and then just get some level 1s and 2s in there, and you're going to be very solid. So beautiful job. I love it.
Thank you.
Good. Sarah in the comments said that as well. A couple people are saying beautiful website. So good job. Wonderful to meet you.
And you. Thank you for your time with us.
You're so welcome. Of course. I'm happy to help. Well, wonderful. Well, if there's no more questions, we are absolutely coming to the end. Yay, Adrian is here. Adrian, if you didn't hop on early, I showed your lead magnet and showed exactly the beautiful copywriting you did on it. So I'm giving you lots of claps. So thank you everyone so much for having me. And you know, I'm always here to support. I'm just absolutely love the GetOiling team, and that's why I'm always involved with them as well. So any questions that you have, if you ask of them, they can always pass those on to me, and I'll give you good answers. Okay. So that is it. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Thanks, Tiff, for being here. And thank you, everybody, for joining. It was awesome. We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.